Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. I appreciate you being a viewer and a subscriber. Let's just jump right in. In this video, I'm going to go over the battle for the $15 an hour minimum wage, and the person at the front of the battlefield is Bernie Sanders from Vermont. Hello, Senator Sanders. You're working hard. We can see that I'm actually going to highlight some important comments and some important clips from a video today featuring Senator Bernie Sanders, the independent from Vermont, where he is essentially ready to do battle for the $15 an hour minimum wage. Let's start with a tweet on your screen from Andrew Solenda. Andrew is a Forbes reporter covering politics, and Andrew writes that Democrats, backed by Schumer and Pelosi, are set to introduce a bill that would raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour over the course of 5 years. Yep, $15 an hour over the course of 5 years. And thereafter, the federal minimum wage would be indexed to median wage growth. Now, keep in mind, folks, that I want our viewers and subscribers to understand that there's a difference between minimum wage and living wages. As the cost of living has gone up over the years, doesn't matter where you live, as the cost of living goes up, as inflation goes up, as things get more expensive, the minimum wage has not kept up with the rise in living standards, with the expenses associated with the rise in living standards. Also, the minimum wage has not kept up with increased productivity, because keep in mind, if you're doing the same job, you're going to be more effective the second year, the third year. You'll probably find ways to make things more efficient. You'll probably rise up in the ranks and do more managerial work where you can essentially boost your productivity. The minimum wage has not kept up with living wages, which is part of the battle for the higher minimum wage. Let's take a look at this release on your screen right now, and it reads: Top Democrats introduce bill raising minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2025. This is called the Raise the Wage Act, and it fulfills a key promise of President Biden's American Rescue Plan. Nearly 32 million Americans would get a raise, and a majority of whom are frontline or essential workers. Very interesting. I'll provide you with a link to this in the description section below, but let's scroll through page 1, and you can see that they quote different types of analysis that have been done. They quote independent analysis, and a quote from Bernie Sanders, who says, "Let's be clear, the $7.25 an hour federal minimum wage is a starvation wage." And there's a comment on your screen from this release from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who says the COVID pandemic and economic crises have pulled back the veil on the unconscionable economic disparities that working women, low-income families, and other vulnerable communities have faced for decades. Now let's move on to page 2 of this release, and you'll see a quote from the new Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who said, "Americans working 40 hours a week should be able to put food on the table and a roof over their families' heads. But with the minimum wage stuck at $7.25, far too many are working hard and still in poverty." So you'll also see other quotes from some well-known Democrats, including Senator Murray, who's the chair of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. You'll see a quote from Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, Congresswoman Murphy, and many other influential Democrats pushing for the $15 an hour minimum wage. I'll provide you with a link in the description section below for more information about the Raise the Wage Act, but I do want to set proper expectations with our viewers and subscribers. I believe it's going to be very difficult to actually get this done. Should it get done? Will it make things more fair? Yes, it will, but it's also going to have some adverse consequences. It is estimated that as low as 1.3 million, as high as 3.7 million of our fellow Americans could lose their jobs entirely, because if you're an employer who now has to pay $15 an hour and you can't afford to do it, you're going to cut costs somewhere and you're going to let some people go. So that is a concern. That is a pushback that Bernie Sanders and others mention in this letter. Let's show you the 2 pages again. Here's page 1, and let's scroll down that page. As you can see, a lot of support from influential lawmakers. And now let's go to page 2. A lot of support from many different individuals, including business owners. But I have to be honest with you, if this does happen, again, we could see anywhere from 1.3 million to 3.7 million of our fellow Americans losing their jobs forever. It's a rather aggressive plan, and let's see if it does happen. Will it make things more fair? Will it make things more balanced? Yes. But then the question arises, why $15 now? Why isn't it higher? Why isn't it lower? It's going to open up a can of worms, if you will. But this is definitely an aggressive push towards the Democrats' priorities. Speaking of aggressive, you'll see this headline on your screen from Politico. Aggressive, Bernie Sanders on his big plans as budget chair. The Democratic Socialist is prepared to be aggressive as aggressive as he can with budget tactics to help Democrats and President Biden enact their sweeping agenda. So basically, right now, Bernie Sanders is overseeing the budget work, the spending work, including the budget reconciliation process. And so he's basically saying, hey, let's just get it done. Let's not sit around waiting weeks and weeks and months to get the support of Republicans. So folks, what happened today was there was a video conference that featured Bernie Sanders along with many of his colleagues. They were in a video conference introducing the Raise the Wage Act. And so let's hear directly from Bernie Sanders talking about the case for the Raise the Wage Act. And he said over half of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, this in the richest country in the world. And he said a minimum wage should be a living wage. Very strong comments from Bernie Sanders as he makes the case for a living wage, not just a minimum wage in the Raise the Wage Act. And he does mention many other things. The inequality and the disparity has always been there. I mentioned that it was growing. I would say it's always been there. But what the last year has taught us, what the last 10 months have taught us, is that they've exposed, if you will, the massive inequalities that exist and in a sense magnified them and amplified them, which is why this is essentially in many ways a coming of age moment for the Democrats as they try and push through their agenda of trying to have a higher minimum wage. Let's roll the tape and hear from Bernie Sanders as he talks about half of our fellow Americans living paycheck to paycheck and the need for a minimum wage to be a living wage.
Look, I don't have to tell anybody, least of all the people on this call, that our country faces major economic crises. Real unemployment today is at 12%. And last month alone, 140,000 workers lost their jobs. Today in America, we are facing massive income and wealth inequality. People on top doing phenomenally well, while ordinary workers all across this country are struggling to feed their kids. And in the midst of all of that, we must never lose sight of the fact that over half of the workers in America today, the richest country in the history of the world, are living paycheck to paycheck. Car breaks down, a medical emergencies, these families suddenly find themselves in terrible financial catastrophe. So let us be clear, and I don't think there's any debate about this. There ain't nobody in America, not in the North, the South, the East, or the West, who can survive on $7.25 an hour federal minimum wage. You can't make it on $9. You can't make it on $12 an hour. And our job as the United States government is to make it clear, and Chairman Scott made this point, and others will make it as well, that in the richest country in the history of the world, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty. Minimum wage must be a living wage, enabling people to live with dignity. It is unacceptable that Congress has not passed an increase in the minimum wage since 2007, 14 years ago. It is a national disgrace that the minimum wage has lost over 30% of its purchasing power since 1968. Yes, now is the time to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, at least $15 an hour. And when, as Chairman Scott pointed out, we increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour, we will be giving over 32 million Americans a much needed raise all across this country. People are going to work and they're coming home and say, how am I going to feed my families? How am I going to pay the rent? And when we raise that minimum wage to a living wage, we're going to allow people to live with a shred of dignity. And that is what we have got to do. In fact, if the legislation we are introducing today becomes law, the average low-wage worker in America would receive an extra $3,300 each and every year. That is no small thing for a family that is struggling economically. And let us be clear, the overwhelming majority of Americans support raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. This is not a radical idea. This is what the American people want. And as Chairman Scott pointed out, since 1998, Every time a state has had an initiative on the ballot to raise the minimum wage, it has won, no matter if that state was red, blue, or purple. State after state understands that we have got to end starvation wages in America, and that's what we in Congress have got to do as well.
Now, in the second segment, Bernie Sanders says that there's overwhelming support from lots of different people to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And he said, hey, this isn't just, my agenda or some sort of socialist progressive agenda. He says that a lot of people support this. He quotes several examples of people supporting it. And he said, this is a national emergency and we must raise the minimum wage. And essentially, he's saying the time for this idea has come, and this shouldn't be something that we should be arguing about. This is something that multiple people have said that they want, and this is something that should be done, especially in this day and age, because individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality, and specific industries have been impacted very, very badly. Let's roll the tape and hear why this is important and how much support there is for the idea of a $15 an hour minimum wage from Senator Bernie Sanders.
In November, just last November, 61% of the people in Florida, a state Joe Biden lost by 3 points, voted to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. 8 states and over 40 cities have adopted laws to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. During the last session of Congress, the House did the right thing under the leadership of Speaker Pelosi and Chairman Scott, and I applaud them and the entire House for their efforts. And they passed legislation to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and I have no doubt that they will do it once again. Now, at this moment in history, the issue of raising the minimum wage rests in the U.S. Senate. It is my strong hope that a number of my Republican colleagues, many of whom come from terribly poor states, will understand the severity of the crisis facing their working people and will join us in raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. This is not a Democratic issue. It's not a Republican issue. This is an issue that impacts every working class person in this country. So no matter whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, all of us understand that no one in America can make it on starvation wages. So my hope is we will bring Republicans on board. But we must understand that at this moment, the issue of starvation wages in America is a national emergency. If we cannot get enough Republicans to vote for this legislation under regular order, we cannot simply take no for an answer.
Let's watch the consistent energy, the consistent push from Bernie Sanders, the undying spirit from Senator Bernie Sanders to push for the $15 an hour minimum wage using the process of budget reconciliation. And by the way, the ball is already rolling for the Democrats. They've already started essentially getting the ball rolling with budget reconciliation. And so if things don't work out with these bipartisan talks with all of these senators, keep in mind, I did mention that the director of the White House Economic Council, there he is, hello, Brian Deese, is meeting with several Republican senators. There they are. Those are all the Republican senators and several Democratic senators. Here they are, several Democratic senators, including who I call the conservative Democrat, Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia. So Brian Deese, there he is. Hello, Brian, there you are again, is meeting with the Republican senators and the Democratic senators. And they basically said to him, let's make the checks more targeted. We don't just need to send money to people who already have enough money and who are not going to spend the money. And definitely, let's put in more money for the distribution of the vaccine. What Bernie Sanders is basically saying is, hey, if these talks don't work out, we just move forward with budget reconciliation. Let's roll the tape and hear what Sanders had to say. Let's watch.
We must raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, either through budget reconciliation by a simple majority vote in the Senate. And as the incoming chair of the Senate Budget Committee, that is exactly what I will be fighting to do. And let me remind everybody who thinks that reconciliation is some kind of new or radical concept. Please remember that if the Republicans could use reconciliation to pass trillions of dollars in tax breaks for the wealthy and large corporations. If the Republicans can use the reconciliation process to drill in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, if the Republicans could use reconciliation to try to repeal the Affordable Care Act and throw up to 32 million Americans off of the health care that they have, we can and we must use reconciliation to protect the needs of working families in this country. We must use reconciliation to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Now is not the time for excuses. Now is not the time for more talk. Now is the time for action. Millions of families all over this country are looking at us right now, and they are saying, we can't make it on $10 an hour, $12 an hour. Help us do the right thing. And that is exactly what we must do.
That's it, everyone. Let me know your thoughts about the Raise the Wage Act, the $15 an hour minimum wage, whether you think it makes sense, what you think of Sanders' comments, whether you think it's even likely to happen, because we need to live in reality, not just fantasy. I do believe this has a very slim chance of actually passing and becoming law, but hey, in politics there is one thing that is certain, and that is that things are uncertain. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. If you don't know anything about me, check out my video. You'll learn a little bit more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. This channel, the Ignition Time channel, is about the country, it's about the economy, and it's about your money. I cover the complex world of politics so you understand all the games that are being played. Here's a chessboard on your screen. The players in the game right now are President Biden, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, and the new Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. These are the games that are being played. We have to take several different things into consideration in this new world that we live in, which is why I break down the complex world of politics. I help you understand what President Biden is thinking. I help you understand what House Speaker Pelosi is thinking. I help you understand what the underlying agenda and the motivations are of the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. I help you make sense of the complex world of politics and help you understand what's going on in the economy so you can make better decisions about your money. If you learned something new from this video, please consider clicking the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. I would really appreciate that. The name of our channel is Ignition Time. By the way, gently tap the like button. Don't do it in a way where you smash the screen. I don't want that. Let's clear that up. I don't want that. I want you to be happy when you're watching my videos. I want to be able to give you balanced news, real news. I want there to be a confetti-like atmosphere. I want us to be in dance mode. I want us to be happy. I want us to put that crazy year of 2020 behind us. I want there to be tons and tons of money in your bank account like you see here. I want you to be happy. I want you to be successful. And that's what this channel is all about. You'll find the links to all of our resources in the description section below. So definitely check out our resource section. Also, please comment below and engage with our community. Our community is bipartisan. It's growing very rapidly. And I invite you to engage with our community. There have been many new friendships formed in the community over the past several months. So I'm really excited about that. Also, please share this video with just 2 friends or family members, 2 friends or family members. I would appreciate that. And as always, you're welcome back to the channel. And also, please bookmark our channel. Simply go to youtube.com/ignition time. That's youtube.com/ignition time and bookmark our channel so you never miss a single notification. Speaking of notifications, follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is ignition_time, and also follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is also ignition_time. That's right here. In fact, here's my Twitter feed for you, and you'll see all the latest news stories I'm reading, everything. You'll be able to follow the news along with me, and I retweet a lot of important information in real time, which makes my Twitter feed hopefully a valuable source of information, and that's why it's growing so quickly. So I invite you to follow me on Twitter. Finally, one more time, please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. I would really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time.